welcome to the Marigold Standard, your weekly audio source of all things Dream Star Fighting Marigold. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and I'm joined as ever by the man, the myth, the legend, the great Matter himself. It's Matt Turner. Matt Turner, how are you, good sir?
Brother, I'm great. I had a phenomenal weekend. As we're recording this, I am just one more full work day left of the end of the year, and then I'll be like Chevy Chase and Christmas Vacation, ready to rock and roll. But brother, I'm great. The weather here in northeastern Pennsylvania has been really odd. 2 days ago on Sunday, as I was driving home, anticipating that great Hazuki versus Mercedes Moné match, which we will cover on the Stardom cast later on this week. We were in the midst of a snowstorm, and it was about 20 degrees out, and usually takes me about an hour to drive from Sunday work to back home. It's a little closer to 2 hours. I'd take my time, arrive alive, which I did. About 20 degrees out, and then today, as you can maybe see a little, the sun is shining. It's like 60 degrees out. So in about 48 hours, the temperature tripled, darn near tripled. So I had my windows down. We're a week away from Christmas, and I have my window down.
We are.
Yeah, my window down, blasting Christmas carols. So, but brother, now life is good. I can't complain. I'm super excited to talk about this. It's only one show we're talking about, but boy, what a show! When epic main event. But how's everything on your neck of the woods? As your hair, folks. If you're not watching this on YouTube, Rob Goodwin's hair game is 7 stars in the Tokyo Dome. He's looking extra dapper on this Christmas somewhat edition of Marigold Standard.
It's the Hazuki and Mercedes Moné of haircuts. Yeah, absolutely. What a match. My 9 o'clock got cancelled. So I had a bit of time to kill, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit and I'm going to watch it. And there was moments where like people were trying to come in to have a word with me. I was like making out like I was on a call. No, nobody came into me. It's fine. But yeah, I just sort of found my own little nook, and I was doing some work while I was watching it. I was like, holy mother of God, this is brilliant. And Hazuki getting the praise that she's getting is absolutely deserved. I don't know what the final attendance figure was, but Hazuki managed to turn a crowd on its head in, 10 minutes, which, is the earmarking of a great wrestler, a very, very heavily Mercedes Moné supportive crowd. And Hazuki managed to bring them round, pretty much straight away. And obviously we'll talk in more detail about that match, but 3 suicide dives, and they're the best suicide dives Hazuki has ever done. So, fair play to Hazuki. But yes, the rest of my weekend went well. I had a football game on Sunday, soccer for our American listeners. And Matt, I'm not going to lie, it wasn't great. So we played the team one below us in the league. Now, we are not high in the league, people. We are staunchly lower mid-table. And this team rocked up, and this is one of the games that we're looking to win. And I was like, right, okay, game head on, game face on. And then I found out that they'd only got 10 men. Now, for those who are completely unaware of the rules of soccer, you have 11 men per side. So they were a man down. And I was like, this is all going well. This is going great. Matt Turner, not since Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior in 1998 has there been such a poor performance. Honestly, it might be the most diabolical performance in the history of soccer from myself. I have never been so simultaneously feeling like I got concrete in my shoes and now was also on roller skates because the ground was so sodden and was so thick that it felt like I was running through treacle. And when you're trying to catch a really quick 18-year-old, nothing is more humbling, Matt, nothing at all, than basically treading water as he sprints past you to score his 5th goal. We were 5-0 down by half time. Now, again, even people who don't understand soccer must know that that is dreadful. One positive, we did win the second half, which, of course, is not how football works. But there we are. Yes, it was a very humbling experience. I was cold, I was wet, I was miserable, and I was embarrassed. So yes, the Hazuki and Mercedes Monet match was much needed, very, very much needed. Never have I felt more fat and middle-aged than watching a 18-year-old who is in the prime of his life sprinting past me like I am a cardboard cutout. It's remarkably humbling.
Rob, I got a couple questions. So you got in what we call soccer, you call football over there in England. You play 2 halves, correct?
2 hours and 45 minutes, yes.
45 minutes apiece, or
yeah.
So 90 minutes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So CM Punk and Chris Hero. There you go. 90. I think that went 93 minutes. But anywho, there's my wrestling reference. So now you said how many teams? You said in the league. How many teams are in your league?
I believe there's 12.
Okay, and what's your record?
I think we are 8th, and we are 3-1. No, hang on. 3 wins, 6 losses, and 1 draw. I think.
We're gonna call
it 1 draw.
1 TLD. We're gonna call that the special.
Yeah. We basically we got the Omega and Okada out of the way earlier in the season. Yeah, the 60-minute match.
Okay, I was just curious because you're talking about the team. I was like, okay, Rob is probably at the bottom of the pool here, so 3 wins. Okay, that's all. And I was just wondering how long you guys, how long they play for, because I know the biggest sport over here in the States is pro wrestling. I don't care what anybody says, but no, it's football. Whether it's the NFL, whether it's high school football is very big, especially over in Pennsylvania. But the NFL and obviously college football, where they play 4 quarters. And I know hockey, there's periods, there's 3 periods. But I know most, like college basketball, is 2 halves, and that's why I figured it was 2 halves. So it's 45 minutes. So yeah, because soccer is not, again, what we call soccer, you call football, is something I'm not too aware of. But what I do know is when you said you're down 5-0, it's not like in the NFL where you score a touchdown, it's worth 6 points. You have to score, everything is 1 point. So what Rob was trying to say, folks, in order for them to come back, they would have to score 5 consecutive goals just to tie. So what did the end score wind up being if you guys are down 5-0?
5-1. We did score a second half goal. I did set it up as well. So there you go. But I was absolutely do you know what? I think calling it a Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior performance might actually be too much of a compliment. So I'm actually going to downgrade it. I think it was more a Jenna Maraska versus Queen Charmel from Victory Road 2009 sort of performance. It was that bad. Yeah, again, it's made me doubt my life choices considerably. Far too much beer and not enough fitness, I think, has been highlighted there.
You want the bat turner a positive spin on it?
Matt, you are the most positive person I know. I don't know if there is a positive spin on this.
And I'm going to try. Maybe not enough beer.
Maybe I needed to turn up hammered. I mean, I wouldn't have been the only one, which is worrying. But
that's what it is. This way, you're ready to go. You got those beer muscles going. They might be asleep by halftime, but at that point, you might have worn them down. Maybe some clotheslines, some forearms. You know what I mean? You're not really feeling any pain until the next morning. But again, what did we talk about last week? We talked about the hole in your calf. You worry about that tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So there it is.
Exactly.
There it is. Pride is forever. Our pain is temporary. Pride is forever. There you go, buddy.
Oh, there was no pride after this game. We actually played better when one of their other players turned up and they were back to 11 and full strength. We played better, which explain that logic. But yes, it was very humbling. But apart from that, it was my brother's birthday. So we went out on Sunday afterwards so I could bemoan the football to my dad and my brother, who were very unsympathetic, actually, come to think of it. But there we are. But yes, apart from that, a lovely weekend had by all. And I saw that you were a little Christmassy this weekend.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because our nephews came over. One's 11, one's 14. The 11-year-old, he's all into getting fancy designer colognes. He actually had long story short, my wife she doesn't like a lot of scents. We have like candles all over the place, but you can't open them up because too many scents will give her a headache. So it was a couple of days after Thanksgiving. He said, "Anna Amber, can you take me out shopping, for Christmas?" "Sure. What do you want?" "Cologne." So they would go to, I think it was Macy's or whatever, and they were sniffing different colognes. I'm like, "Oh, this is going to end up good."
Yeah.
Because she's going to get it. She's going to get a headache. Regardless, he comes over my house smelling as if he's going to the gala. He's 11. So we're going to go out for dinner, and then we were going to, plan number one is we were going to do lights illumination in the Coca-Cola Park, which is where there's a AAA baseball team that plays about 20 minutes away from where we live. So they were going to take the baseball field and make it this whole big Christmas thing. Great. I love Christmas. It's going to look like a Hallmark movie. I'm all for it. The more the merrier. I got my nephews with me. This is going to be great. Well, as we're getting ready to go for dinner, Amber goes to buy the tickets online and they're sold out, which is weird for something to sell out for something you're walking through. I was like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because you kind of just want to walk through and get as many people as possible. That's weird. So like, we'll figure it out. We go out for dinner, get done with dinner, and then we realize, hey, or while we're at dinner, we're like, hey, there's this other place where you drive through. I'd rather do the walk thing experience, but whatever, we'll drive through. Amber goes to get the tickets, clicks on the date. As she's getting ready to confirm her email address, kicks her out, sold out. How is something sold out that you're literally driving through? So then we're kind of just searching on our phones. I said, let's do this. Well, and it was 20 degrees out, if that. Might have been even colder. So we parked the car, we walked around the little Christmas village, took some pictures, and then we're like, let's go to Wawa, which is very big in northeastern Pennsylvania, and we'll get some Christmas milkshakes. All right, so like Christmas themed milkshakes. So we go on the screen, we all type in our milkshakes, and then the Wawa is right across the street from a local college. Now, usually 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, majority of the kids coming in there are college kids, 18 to 22. So as we're waiting for our drinks, we're seeing all the college kids coming in from their study breaks, Rob, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're getting ready to leave, and my 11-year-old opens up the door, and these two girls come walking in, maybe 18, 19, maybe 20. And they're like, you guys go in the car. I'm going to get the door for these girls. So I was like, I'm going to stay here to see what happens. So I thought maybe he'd throw a little pickup line at her or whatever. I said, here's this 11-year-old smelling like he's Ralph Lauren over here, looking all sorts of stylish, kind of hitting on college girls. And I couldn't have been any more prouder. Could not have been any more prouder. Yeah, he did come up to me the one day and he's like, can you teach me your pickup lines? And my wife was like, they don't work. And I'm like, well, who did you marry? Who did you marry?
They worked on you.
Yeah, it did work. It did work out. So that was really fun. That was really fun. So, and then this Friday, my last day of work, I'll be taking Lily to lunch in the movies. So it'll be nice little, booking in my Christmas to get the holiday season going. But no, that was fun. I mean, I'm big into family and Christmas time. And that was a hoot, even though we literally had to call 2 audibles, almost like calling in the ring, because this finish didn't work. So we had to go to this finish. The crowd wasn't buying it. So then we had to do this one. It made it even cooler. Like the 2 ideas we had, we couldn't do because for some reason they were sold out. I guess nobody wants to make any money during Christmas. So we came up with a last minute plan, and it worked out. So yeah, it was a fun time. It was a fun time.
Well, before we get into some of the news coming out of Marigold and Stardom, I do have a little bit of a Christmassy update of my own, Mr. Turner, and one you might find entertaining. So obviously I think we've plumbed the depths of Hot Frosty nowadays. We've sort of talked about the film and how it is, one of the worst films to ever grace God's green screen, but that's by the by. Matt Turner, I might have found a film worse. And, again, we've said this before on the podcast. It's like, you wait for ages for a London bus and then 2 come at once. I didn't think you'd be able to find a film as bad as Hot Frosty. Lo and behold, here comes Hot Frosty. There'll never be a Christmas film as bad as Hot Frosty. Oh, lo and behold, 'twas the text before Christmas. Yes, Matt Turner, that is the title of the film. 'Twas the text before Christmas. Now, let me summarize the film for you. The film is about an errant text. So there is a girl who was split up from her boyfriend. We know she split up with her boyfriend because she says it in no, Kirsty, you don't understand. It's not a good film.
Come on in.
You'll be on camera if you come in. She just wants to say
you really need to get a grip.
She says I need to get a grip. I don't think she You also said this was such a dreadful film. She says she's turned it off and she's moved on, but I can't. I hold on to things, Matt. I hold on to rage. So a girl breaks up with her boyfriend. We know this because she says it within the first 30 seconds of the film because pointless exposition. And basically, she receives a text. who's this text from? Who knows? Who knows from who this text is from? So she ignores it. Another text comes through. Are you coming to Christmas coming to Christmas lunch? Turns out it's a wrong number, Matt. Believe it. And it's an old lady. Admittedly, did not see that coming. And she basically wants to hook up this girl she has only just met with her son, who is a doctor from Chile. I don't know if that's relevant, but there we are. And the dialogue is honestly the worst thing I've ever heard. All of the characters are exactly the same. None of them can act, save for the old lady, who everyone calls Nana, whether they're related to her or not. The script is something written by ChatGPT. It's dreadful. You've got these weird fades for some reason. The text is like from 1980. It is because guess what happens at the end, Matt? I bet you can't guess what happens.
They fall in love together and they go to Hawaii and they see Lacey Chabert and Hot Frosty. So then now they have the universe, like the Marvel universe. They have the Hallmark universe, right?
The Frostyverse.
The Frostyverse.
No, the grandma turns out to be a serial killer, skins them both alive, and uses them as lampshades. No, I'm joking. That's not what happens. No, shock of the day, the son and the daughter get together. Now, that film and that plot lasts for over an hour and a half. How? I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. There's also one part, massive plot hole. During lunch with her dad, where they let everyone in the audience know that unfortunately her mother has passed away, she says that it's the first Christmas that her mother has passed away. Literally 20 minutes later, it says that, my mum passed away 3 years ago when I was 15. You are not 18. I am telling you now that she is not 18. It's a very bizarre time paradox. Again, obviously, I know that most people tune into these podcasts now for Christmas film recommendations. And I can honestly tell you that this is worse than Hot Frosty. At least Hot Frosty had that sort of goofy character. And it had Daryl in it from The Office and Doyle from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So it had that going for it. This had physically no positives. No positives whatsoever. Why would you go to a grandma's house that you have never met before? Have you never seen any film from primary school? What if she was a predator? How would you know? You wouldn't know.
Like the Predator from Arnold in The Predator? Like is Arnold Schwarzenegger in the sequel? See, I already wrote a better sequel just like that. He was in Jingle All the Way.
He was in Jingle All the Way, which is a significantly better Christmas film and significantly better acted. And I know that your thing is if you put Arnold Schwarzenegger into any film, it will be better. Dirty Dancing, better with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But yes, this film legitimately would have been more entertaining with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And a Predator, I think, as well. It would have lasted significantly less anyway, and it wouldn't have wasted my life watching it.
Rob, I got one question, and then I'm going to button hook this back into the wrestling universe. So as we're almost 20 minutes in, one question is, what platform can I watch said movie on?
Don't do this. Don't do this to yourself.
It's the movie because I'm already writing the sequel, The Predator, Arnold. So I need this. I need my reference.
Twas the Predator Before Christmas. It's on Netflix.
Okay, all right. And then two, this movie sounds like it was written by Vince Russo. Speaking of Vince Russo, he works in wrestling. We're here to talk wrestling.
Oh my God.
Goodwin.
It's the worst. Oh my God. It's the worst transition. But you're absolutely right. Let's move into some news because, good grief, we don't need to be talking more and more about Christmas films. Kirsty's already told me I need to get over it. Talking of, we've already spoken a little bit about Mercedes Moné and Hazuki, and obviously we're going to have a full review of that on the Stardom cast this week. But that has led us to a Wrestle Dynasty match in the Tokyo Dome, January 5th. Mercedes Moné will be defending her belt against Mina Shirakawa. Now, Matt, you called this And I think, quite a few other people said that this was probably the direction they were going. When it was announced that Mina Shirakawa was lower on the card against Johnny Robbie, I think we all assumed that it would be at some point Mina versus Mercedes. We did think perhaps they would do this at Dream Queendom, but it has been put forward as a match for Wrestle Dynasty in the Tokyo Dome, which is a big thing for Mercedes. She did an interview, I think it was an Instagram Live actually, where she got very emotional at the thought of finally wrestling at the Tokyo Dome, which is great. Mina Shirakawa has been doing some really good work in AEW, so I think she is fully deserving of a chance in the Tokyo Dome. It'll be a great match. I think we all anticipate Mercedes Moné retaining. It was billed, rather hilariously, as a double title match. It has since been changed because I think that AEW and New Japan forgot that Mina Shirakawa had got a title defense before Mercedes. She does face Danny Luna on December 21st at Rev Pro on December 21st in York Hall, London. So we're going to assume that Mina Shirakawa does retain and then goes on to have a double title match for the undisputed British Women's Championship and the New Japan Strong Women's title as well. Mina Shirakawa doesn't exactly have the greatest record in double title matches. Looking at you, Tam Nakano. But I like the fact that we're doing this. And it's good to know as well that actually outside of the ring, Mina and Mercedes are actually friends. They met back in 2018 and Mercedes Moné said that she would love to wrestle Mina. Mina did an interview with Lyric Wrestling, who you can follow on Twitter and Blue Sky. Really good follow. She did an interview with Mina and Mina said the opponent she most wanted to face was Mercedes. So the fact that they are able to do this together in such a historic venue as the Tokyo Dome, it does feel nice and a great way to start 2025.
Yeah, I kind of figured that was the way they were going. I was selfishly wanted this match at Dream Queendom, but again, we'll talk about it later on the Stardom cast. If they were to put that match on Dream Queendom, where does it go? You know what I mean? Because we're six matches in here. It's like, this is good. It's already the card of the year and didn't even happen yet. Like it really has the opportunity to be maybe one of the top 10 greatest Stardom shows of all time, depending on how the rest of the card gets filled out. Again, we'll discuss more of that on the Stardom cast later this week. But the main reason why I thought, and a lot of people were saying, when I mentioned that on the Stardom cast a few weeks ago, a lot of people were saying it's going to go to the Tokyo Dome on the 5th. It's going to be on the Tokyo Dome on the 5th. One of the reasons why I didn't think it was going to be on the Tokyo Dome is because that show is built as AEW, Ring of Honor, Stardom, CMLL, New Japan. And I figured if they're going to want Mercedes to defend the TBS title there. Obviously, New Japan, the Tokyo Dome is their venue, but AEW might have the most amount of pull because they're the bigger company of the others. And obviously, they own Ring of Honor. They're the second biggest wrestling company in the world. So I figured, well, if Tony Khan's obviously going to have some say in that, he's going to want the TBS title on the line, not the New Japan Strong. So that's why I was like, okay, when after that phenomenal match, and Mina, when she called, she's calling somebody out. I'm like, yeah, I'm willing to bet a good amount of money it's going to be Mina. But I was shocked it's going to be for the New Japan Strong Championship. Again, because of Mercedes Moné is a contracted wrestler with AEW. Regardless, we're getting a Mina Shirakawa versus Mercedes Moné match in the Tokyo Dome. So again, we know that these Stardom, these Joshi-style wrestlers in the Tokyo Dome over the last few years has kind of been not the best of terms between either just not showing the matches or not being on the card or giving them 5 minutes like they did with Tam and Kairi. But we're getting 2 matches back to back. In Izumi and Mayu and Mercedes and Mina. So I'm super thrilled about that. It's just adding on to the plethora of great matches that we have starting literally probably from the 24th until the 5th. So again, another Christmas present for us. And I think that's going to be absolutely great. Mina and Mercedes, as you mentioned before, they've been, wanting to wrestle each other for quite some time. So you knew it was only a matter of time. And kudos to AEW because what have they done with Mina? They built her up. They put her on TV. They put her in big matches. So she's a bigger star now than she was a year ago. Mercedes Moné is absolutely crushing it, especially these last few matches she's had. So a lot of momentum with these two going into that match in one of the biggest venues in the world in the Tokyo Dome for Wrestle Dynasty. So yeah, super, super excited about it. Probably the match I'm looking forward to the most on that card on the 5th.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is worth noting as well that neither Mercedes or Mina are currently on the Dream Queendom card. Why not put together some sort of preview tag on Dream Queendom? I mean, it would be great if Xena is fit. Obviously, we haven't heard any update on the progress of Xena's injury. She did allude to perhaps being back sooner rather than later when she was doing commentary on a historic crossover. But again, when that actually is, I don't know. Otherwise, Mina and Waka, maybe. Mina and Waka versus Mercedes and another. I don't think it particularly matters because obviously the main focus is Mina and Mercedes, but it will be great to see that on there. And I think that might be where we're going. I know that obviously Mercedes is the women's, the TBS champion, and she'll be defending that, I believe, this Saturday against Anna Jay. So whether Mercedes will be on, she might well be on World's End, which I think is the day after.
The day before, I think that's what we
discovered. The day before, December 28th.
Yeah.
So
they're going to want her on that card. Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily take her out of Dream Queendom. We've seen it before, but it does make it significantly less. Again, she may drop the TBS championship to Anna Jay. I sincerely doubt it, but it could happen. Let's move on then to talking about Marigold, because we did announce that on the 21st, Marigold will be debuting the Twin Star Tournament Cup, which is single elimination tag team tournament, which opens up a lot of really cool opportunities and cool matchups as well, which I'm very, very excited for. It did also show that Kazuna Tanaka will be back on those cards. But Marigold have now announced the full card for the 26th of December, Boxing Day, their last Korakuen Hall show of 2020. And Matt, it's a really good card, a really interesting card, obviously with First Stream just around the corner, and we are quite worryingly close to First Stream actually now. I didn't actually realize how close we were to First Stream until I was looking at something for work, and I was like, good grief, the 3rd of January is like 3 weeks away. But there's no title matches on this card. However, a lot is building towards First Stream. Now, as announced on the show that we're going to be talking about, we have got the debut of 2 rookies, Nagisa Takibana and Ryoko Sakimura. They will be making their debuts at this show. Takibana facing Kazuna Tanaka and Ryoko Sakimura taking on Nanae Takahashi. Elsewhere on the card, we have got Kamoma Minami and Ryo Sato versus Naho Yamada and Minami Yuki. In singles action, Misa Matsui versus Hummingbird. Mirai versus Nao Ishikawa, which could be a sleeper hit of this card. We then got a preview match as well. Chiaki and Nagisa Nozaki versus Bozilla and Myla Grace. We'll go into a little bit more about the Twin Star Championship picture when we talk about the show, because a lot of the build up to that happened on that show. And then in your main event, we have got a Champions versus Challengers 8-woman tag match. And it's a blockbuster main event. It really is. Sareee, Koki Amare, Natsumi Shozuki, and Miko Aono versus Utami Haishishita, Mai Sakurai, Chika Goto, and Victoria Yuzuki. I mean, I would argue, Matt, that just for the main event alone, you are getting your money's worth, but there are some really, really good matchups there. Obviously, people are going to want to see what the 2 rookies are like as well. They passed their protest at the same time as Steady Yamaoka, who will, of course, be debuting at First Stream against Mirai. I am really looking forward to Mirai versus Nao Ishikawa. The Twin Star picture is really interesting with all the descent between the Dark Wolf Army and Bozilla. And then you've got a really cool little Superfly division match just in the middle there. Misa Matsui versus Hummingbird. Misa Matsui, of course, who might be misdependable in terms of the Marigold roster. No matter where you plug her in, she is fantastic. So that's really exciting as well. But yes, Matt, a very exciting card for the 26th.
Yeah, we've seen Rossi and Marigold doing a great job building up those Korakuen halls for championship matches. Obviously, we have First Stream, so it's not like we can book Sareee in a championship match or we can book Miko Ano in a championship match, because the majority of the card for First Stream is set, and that's your big show to start off 2025. And boy, howdy, what a fantastic card that is going to be. Obviously, what's probably going to be an early contender fourth show of the year coming up, as you said, partner, just in about 2 weeks' time. It's just absolutely crazy how time is flying when you're having fun. When I saw that 8-person tag as the main event, the first thing I thought of was the generational struggle match from about a year and a half ago, where it's just like you have got some great talent, some great potential matchups, some great potential team ups. To me, that one screams, and I always say, like, sometimes you shouldn't be doing time limit draws all the time. That one screams, I'm all about that one going 30 minutes. I'm all about that one going 30 minutes because, again, you got, and the way that they're paired up too is just absolutely perfect, because that's going to be your pretty much last ticket push going into First Dream. And I mean, what a great advertiser and what a great pusher for to sell more tickets and more subscriptions to Wrestle Universe and whatnot than that match. But yeah, that way, you're absolutely right, partner. As you said about 2 minutes ago, that's worth the price of admission alone. That 8-person tag, that's going to be terrific. You have the 2 rookies, Hummingbird and Misa Matsu. I'm really, really looking forward to. I made mention all the time on this show how much I love Hummingbird, and she's fantastic. She fits in really well with this current Marigold roster, especially in that Superfly division. And Misa Matsui is right on the same level as Natsume Shozuki, as pretty much the backbone of that division in this first year of Marigold. So yeah, another really, really solid card to end out Marigold's Korakuen Hall campaign here in 2024.
Yeah, it's going to be a really entertaining show. I completely agree with you. Ultimately, that main event it's a weird match in that it doesn't really matter if there isn't a winner. Like, the winner does really feel secondary in that match. It's about those feuds. So it'll be the first time we see Utami and Sareee together in a ring, actually battling each other. Presuming they get in, because we've seen Miko Ano and Mai Sakurai, very, very fleetingly. Obviously, we've seen Natsumi Shozuki and Victoria Yuzuki as well. We've seen Chika Goto and Koki Amare and the cracks that are starting to form in the Twin Towers. I think there's a lot to look forward to just in that match. And I think Marigold have done a commendable job making a Korakuen Hall show with no title matches a compelling watch, and not just because of the main event either. It is worth saying that will be live on Wrestle Universe the 26th of December, and it will be live with English commentary. Sonny Gutierrez and Stu Fulton will be returning for that show, as I presume they will be for First Dream as well.
Great. I didn't know that there's going to be English commentary with that show from Sonny and Soup. They've been doing a great job. So good. Thanks for the good news, buddy. As always, where do I get my news? Live on air, buddy. Live on air. Awesome. Great stuff.
Speaking of good news, Marigold will have a press conference on the 19th of December, which is 2 days away from when we record, and tomorrow as you are listening to this. So hopefully we will get the full remainder of the card for First Dream as well. Maybe we will also get a little bit of an insight into what's going to happen on their New Year's Eve show. Because as of yet, we know that it's a celebration. It's going to be taking place in Shinkiba First Ring, but we don't quite know whether it's going to be a full event or whether it's just going to be a celebration. We're not entirely sure there. I'm sure we'll find out soon, maybe at this press conference. So I'm sure it will air on YouTube, probably through Wrestle Universe's YouTube channel. So make sure to check out Marigold's social media if it's not on YouTube. Speaking of press conferences, I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't mention another typically chaotic Stardom press conference. Stardom had a press conference today to announce a little bit moving forward. Not the full lineup for Dream Queendom, as we were talking about earlier, but we did get another match announced. We also have some stipulations moving forward for 2 others. We have the main event for New Blood 17, which will be taking place on Boxing Day, and we also have 2 title matches set up for Christmas Eve as well. We'll go into a little bit more detail on these matches when we do the Stardom cast, which will obviously be in your feeds on Friday as per usual. But the match that has been announced, or the additional match for Dream Queendom, is Mikari Wata taking on Sioriano. They will be taking on each other for the 4th time this year. Very exciting. They've obviously feuded throughout the year for the Wonder of Stardom Championship and for the Sendai Girls World Championship, have traded wins back and forth, and this feels very much like a rubber match. No titles on the line, but we've seen what these women can do, and we know that it's going to be magical. Matt, you called this, and I'll let you take your victory lap in a moment as soon as I've gone through the rest of the information. So we also had Konami and Sareee face off during this press conference. It was then announced that that match will be a knockout and submission match only. No pinfalls allowed in that match. And then Micah and Natsukatora decided that they were going to just hit each other with weapons, as you do. There was no separating them, and eventually Natsukatora body slammed Micah through a table. That match has now been made no DQ, which, of course, certainly suits Natsuko Tora. And also, Matt, I don't know if you noticed this, or I don't know if you've seen the press conference itself. There was an interesting moment with Tam and Saya. Tam, who never seems to be able to just make it through a press conference, whether it's bleeding, whether it's covered in cake, wine, glass, doesn't seem to matter. Today it was cake. Saya Kamatani attempted to smash a bottle of champagne over Tam's head. Tam blocked it, smashed it over Saya's head. Saya responded by putting some cake in Tam's face, which does very much feel like Tam got the upper hand here, and then proceeded to lick it off her face.
I don't know what's going on with these ladies trying to hit members of Cosmic Angels or former members of Cosmic Angels with champagne bottle. It didn't work on the press conference with Sai and Tam a couple weeks ago. It didn't work with Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa. So, folks, if you're going to attack any member that's been in Cosmic Angels, and we know that Unagi is doing a lot of indie dates in the United States. So if you're working Unagi, you cannot hit her with a champagne bottle. I guess that's just like you can't power. Yeah, that's like in the late 90s. You Tom Kidman. If you've been in Cosmic Angels, you're immune to getting hit with champagne bottles. But yeah, another chaotic Stardom press conference, my friend, because again, we had the champagne bottle, we had the cake, we got Micah going through a table, we have Mika Wada and Soriano getting each other's face. We have no Tekla to slam F-bombs. I'm hoping Bozilla does do the F-bomb and keeps it up going off for the Joshis at the press conference we have coming up at the end of this week. Yeah, she will. So, yeah, really, I think it was last night right before I was getting ready to go to bed, I was just checking Twitter, and they were like, yeah, there's going to be a press conference tomorrow, which we knew was probably going to happen sooner than later because we're coming up on the show. I'm like, okay, they're probably going to announce the full card. So I'm still kind of scratching my head like, we're 2 weeks away, and this full card's still not announced. Now, granted, we did get Mika Wada versus Soriano, and the championship matches are all going to be terrific. And now we've added stipulations that make sense. It's not just putting stipulations in to have stipulations. Obviously, Konami, sure. And you did make mention they're probably going to do like a UWF rules match or something similar. And it's basically UWF rules without the point systems and the knockouts. It's just pinfall and, no pinfalls, knockout and submission only, very much like Shuri versus Chihiro Hashimoto back at last year's All-Star Grand Queendom. And then Micah and Tora, no DQ. Which is perfect because, and again, we'll talk about it on the Stardom cast with that great grappling exchange with Mike and Shuri and their match from just this past weekend. Like, Mike is fantastic. She can do everything. Her and Tora, I don't want to see doing chain wrestling. I don't want to see doing any grappling because that's not what's going on. There's no respect there. Obviously, Mike and Shuri have that respect. Mike and Julia, when they would do it, have that. But there's no respect that this needs to be from the bell rings, just two bulls colliding, two heavyweight hitters just dropping bombs to see who's going to outlast each other. And we saw in one of the falls with Momo and Micah for no DQ at this year's All-Star Grand Queendom, all sorts of violent. But it's one fall. It's going to be absolute chaos, and I cannot wait to see it because this one is going to be the words of Jim Ross, bowling shoe ugly. So I'm glad we have these added stipulations. I'm really glad we're getting Mika Wada versus Soriano because there's an old saying, you can't have too much of a good thing, and I'm all about it. Those three matches that they've had earlier this year were terrific. Now we're on the bigger stage. There's no championships on the line. It's just basically a matter of pride. So, yeah, I'm excited for that, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen with the rest of this card. What's Hazuki doing? What's Mayu doing? What's Fuki and Death doing? What else is going on with this card? We're 6 matches in. It's like, I'm sold, but what are you giving me? You have to have Mayu on there. Like, you have to, right? But it's just like, where are they going to go again? I really think they need to do some sort of Neo Genesis versus Stars multi-person match as we're building towards the Tokyo Dome. But the 6 matches that we have announced, I mean, just Dream Queendom cards. This is the 4th one, and this can be the best one as far as a complete card. This can be the best one. But I'm really, really excited. And cheap plug, folks, we will be doing a live Dream Queendom review on the 29th of December. We're not sure of the time just yet, but once we get more information, myself and Rob will hammer out a time, and we'll be doing a live review at what very well could be the show of the year, my friend.
Absolutely. I have no doubt. But before that, we do have Stardom New Year Christmas Night 2024, which will take place on the 24th of December inside Korakuen Hall. 2 title matches made official for this. Future of Stardom Championship, Miyu Saki making her first title defense against Sayaka Kurora. And then, Matt, I feel like we wish this into existence. The High Speed Championship, May Sareee, the champion, taking on Momo Kogo. Do we dare dream? I mean, I love May Sareee. I really, really do. And I think she is, I've said this before, I think she is the linchpin of this high-speed division and what this high-speed division should be built around. However, during that 5-star, she really did blow me away with the way that she's able to adapt to different styles of wrestling. The match with Tomoka Inaba, for example, where she just ripped apart Tomoka Inaba's leg was tremendous. But maybe I'm thinking with my heart, how amazing would it be if Momo Kogo saw out this year as the high-speed champion, her first piece of silverware in Stardom? And again, we've said it before, if anyone on this roster has earned a title, whether it is the Future of Stardom title, the high-speed title, the artist belts, whatever it is, if anyone has deserved just a moment in the limelight, it is Momo Kogo without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, and what's going to be cool, my guess is, not unless they put an artist match on there, which we talked about before we hit the record button, this is probably going to be the main event. Again, not unless there's some sort of big, Sumie Mayu thing or something. This is probably going to be the main event, because we've seen the main event with the high-speed championship in Korakuen Hall before with Yuna Mizumori versus May Sareee and Xena, and they've all been great matches, and they've all drawn really, really good amount of tickets to Korakuen Hall. So the way I'm looking at this card is probably going to be the main event. So regardless, win, lose, or draw, Momo Kogo's in the main event for a championship in Korakuen Hall. That's really cool. That's going to be a really cool way to kind of springboard her into 2025. Whether she wins or loses, pardon me. Oh, I really got into that one. I'm excited.
How excited Matt is.
My guess would be that Momo Kogo or that May Sareee is going to get the win. But at the same time, we've seen, especially in the high-speed division, they don't mind doing some of those shock wins, like we saw at the ECW Arena with Saki Kashima getting the win there. So it's like, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. And again, Momo Kogo coming off this really good program she has with Mayu wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to put the high-speed championship on her. But I'm so happy for her. I'm so happy that she's getting this opportunity. Again, Korakuen Hall, big show the day before Christmas. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And again, if they don't put an artist match on there, that I'm expecting for this to be the main event, which again, good for her. Main eventing Korakuen Hall, the last Korakuen Hall of what has been just an absolutely fantastic year for Stardom.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, obviously, we have Stardom New Blood 17 on Boxing Day, the 26th. That's going to be in Tokyo New Pier Hall. And that main event has been announced. Devil Princess, Rina and Azusa Inaba, the champions, defending against Rice or Bread, Waka Tsukiyama, and Hanako. Matt, I think we could be seeing a title change here because I feel like we've seen sort of different iterations of this match before, and I can't see why we would rerun it unless it meant there was going to be some sort of title change, because I know Hanako's already gone for the belts since Azusa Inaba and Rina have held them. I think Waka has as well. So I don't know. It's going to be a great match. I'm excited for it, but what do you think?
I'll tell you what, we just did last week. We just did our predictions for 2025, and 2 of my predictions were Momo Kogo, high-speed champion, and that might happen before 2025, and that Waka should either get the New Blood Championship, Tag Team Championships, or the Artist belt. So both my 2025 predictions might happen at the tail end of 2024. Obviously, the main thing we want to make sure that we get right is Hazuki with the white belt. That's all. That's all we want, folks. That's it. But yeah, you make a good point. I think Rina and Azusa, I think that they retain, but very much like Momo and May Sarah, wouldn't be shocked if it goes the other way. Wouldn't be shocked if it's rice or bread, considering the fact of how great Waka's tournament was in the tag league, in the Goth Stardom tournament. Obviously, Hanako with Micah made it all the way to the finals, winning their respective block, and made it all the way to the finals. So again, Hanako is kind of a hot property right now. It would make sense to belt her up. The new blood tag belts would make sense to belt her up, and then maybe push Rina and Azusa into the main tag scene in Stardom, especially since I think me and you both think that Wingori are taking the belts, and what a great V1 in either January or February. Well, it would be for Wingori to take on Devil Princess. That would be a great match, considering the fact that it's like the belts left one hate team. The hate faction would like to try to get them back. Let's try to take a crack at it with Devil Princess. So that's one way they can go. Again, I think either way makes sense, as long as the match is good, and it's going to be, because all four of these wrestlers are great and the two teams have really good chemistry.
Yeah, agreed. I am gonna put sort of my neck out and say title change at New Blood. We have come off the back of 3 relatively long reigns. It wouldn't surprise me if we end it with a title change here. And then finally, I just want to give a shout out to Sumie Sakai, who announced, that she will be retiring from pro wrestling. 27-year career, which is absolutely mad. She has announced that she will be retiring at Battle in the Valley on January 11th at San Jose Civic Center. It's looking like a 6-person tag team match. Team Hiromu Takahashi, which currently just has Hiromu on it, and Team Sumie Sakai, which of course just has Sumie Sakai in it. Sumie, is significantly more than just perhaps the quintessential journeywoman in Joshi Pro Wrestling. She's literally wrestled absolutely everywhere, from JD Star to JWP, from Diana to Stardom to Spark to Ring of Honor to, she has you name a wrestling company and it feels like Sumie Sakai has wrestled there. But aside from that, and despite from the accolades she actually has as well, the amount that she has done in connecting Japanese wrestlers with the US is so important. And actually, when it was announced that she was retiring, I know that Hazuki put something out. I know that Mai Iwatani put something out as well. Both incredibly thankful for the input that Sumie has had on their careers. And I know that Sumie was, we spoke to Jessie, for example, last year from Club Venus, and she actually said that Sumie Sakai was pivotal in helping her to get onto that first Stardom tour that she did. So, the importance of Sumie Sakai cannot be overstated. It really can't. And, I'm sure she will be remembered for her in-ring career, but, she will also be remembered for all of the stuff that she does for Japanese talent backstage, behind the scenes as well. It does mean that next year we are missing, we've got Sumie Sakai, Nanae Takahashi, and Meiko Satomura all retiring in the space of a year. So yeah, 2025 is going to be a tough one for Joshi fans. But Matt, I know that you know Sumie Sakai, don't you? When you've been on wrestling shows with her and you've been backstage with her. What is that like? What's she like as a human? Is she as nice as she comes across?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, back in the early 2000s, I was on so many shows with her, especially in Chikara. A lot of shows. And, and I probably haven't seen her in quite some time. And Rob, you've seen the pictures of me in the early 2000s, 155 pounds, goatee, like the Chris Jericho early 2000s. I do not look anything like I look now.
He doesn't at all.
So I haven't seen Sumie in quite some time, and it was maybe about 2 or 3 years ago. I went to go. A buddy of mine invited me to the show that Jungle Kiona was on. So my buddy Chio, hi Chio, he does the sound, helps them out. He's like, yeah, just come on down, So I saw Sumie walk, and I said, I'll reintroduce myself. So I went over and I was like, hey, Sumie, how are you? She's like, hey, Matt, what's going on? I was like, wow, I can't believe you remember me, considering the fact how different I look like, I'm a little over 200 pounds now. And I remember I was 150. When I graduated Ring of Honor, I was 155. I'll never forget it because I'm trying to gain weight and I just couldn't gain weight. So we were talking and she's like, oh, let me introduce you to Jungle. And that's basically how, I got to meet Jungle Kiona was, Sumie Sakai was able to be like, oh, hi, introduced, this is Matt. And, that was really, really cool. But yeah, Sumie's just super nice and has helped out so many of the talents here from Japan coming over to the States. We saw when Utami came over last summer that I believe Utami stayed at her place and then they were together because I believe she lives in Orlando and they went to an NXT show. Like they sat with each other at the NXT. And I'm almost positive when Julia came over for that and Momo Kogo, when they came over for that TNA New Japan show, that I think Sumie was the one that picked them up at the airport. So not only is she a great talent, she's just a phenomenal person. And I know that she's been kind of teasing her retirement for the last few years, but she just kept going. And I was like, God bless her, because she can still go in the ring. And she helps out quite a bit, or she used to. I'm not sure if she still does, at the old Ring of Honor dojo, which is now the worldwide dojo that Cheeseburger is the trainer at. But I don't know if she's still helping there or not. She might be, but I know she was helping out a lot of talent. So my guess is once she does hang up the boots coming up in early 2025, that she'll go be a full-time trainer. And I think that's the best spot for her because she has so much knowledge of not only just how the Japanese style works, but the American style, melding the two of them together. So yeah, it's going to be a sad day to see her go, but it's like the wrestling business is a lot better for having her. Because again, just a phenomenal talent and just a really down-to-earth sweetheart of a person. So I hope she does stay in the wrestling business one way or another, again, hopefully in the teaching role. So, and I did notice that I think Mercedes Moné even retweeted out saying, hey, if you need a partner, let me know. So that's a possibility as well. We don't know who the mystery people are going to be going into that show in 2025. But again, I think I speak for everyone. I say thank you, Sumie, because you've been nothing but a huge credit to the professional wrestling business.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll obviously cover that a little bit more when we get closer. I have no doubt that there will be, if not some Stardom participation, some Marigold participation. We'll see. I would be very, very surprised if we don't see some Stardom participation on there. We've already had announced, actually, for Battle in the Valley that Maika, Mina Shirakawa, Azumi, and Hanako will all be on the show. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what is being done with them. We obviously also have a strong openweight championship match between Gabe Kidd and Tomohiro Ishii as well. So yes, that's just everything I like about pro wrestling. So that should be fun. Anyway, Matt, we've done a lot of talking. Let's kick into the main event of today's show, which was Winter Wonderful Fight 2024. This emanated from Shinjuku Face on December 13th, last Friday, and it was a stacked show. This obviously it was based around the main event of Sareee and Nanae Takahashi after it had to be postponed from the previous Korakuen due to the neck injury from Nanae. But as a result, we had an absolutely loaded card for Marigold's first foray into Shinjuku Face. As I mentioned, first time ever run. The announced attendance for the show was 464 people, confirmed as a sellout. It's also the highest non-Korakuen Hall attendance since the Dream back on the 28th of September, which is obviously quite an achievement. And again, we've spoken a lot about some of the attendances in Marigold, and it's only right that we praise big attendances. And their attendance at the 176 box in Osaka on the 7th of December, huge crowd, was actually given the title of sellout as well. The show after that on the 8th, Taharu, I believe, in Aichi, there wasn't a number put on that, but it looked like a good crowd and they were hot as well. And then obviously here, this crowd were absolutely molten from the word go. A couple of things, obviously Kazuna Tanaka was pulled from this card due to the back injury, and she was replaced in the three-way by Minami Yuki. It's also marked the returns, as I mentioned, of Nanae Takahashi and Chikagoto, with this being Chikagoto's first match back since October, and Takahashi's first since an injury she sustained whilst taking that Uranagi from Sareee on the 2nd of November in Sapporo. So the results for this show are as follows. The three-way match, Ria Sato defeated Manami Yuki and Kamomo Minami with a really cool modified chicken wing that Ria Sato has started adapting into her offense, which I'm a big, big fan of. That lasted 5 minutes and 16 seconds. Tag team match, Bozilla and Misa Matsui defeated Hummingbird and now Ishikawa. Bozilla pinning Hummingbird with a sit-out powerbomb in 8 minutes and 46 seconds. In a 6-woman tag team match, Utami Hayashishita, Koki Yamare, and Victoria Yuzuki defeated the team of Miko Ano, Chika Goto, and Naho Yamada. Victoria Yuzuki pinning Yamada with the Victoria Clutch in 13 minutes and 7 seconds. Marigold Superfly Championship on the line next. Natsumi Shozuki, the champion, making her 4th successful title defense, defeating Myla Grace with a modified roll-up in 8 minutes and 41 seconds. In the Marigold Twin Star Championships match, it's a historic match because it marks the first ever title change in Marigold history. The Dark Wolf Army, Chiaki and Nagisa Nozaki, defeating Mirai Saku, Mirai and Mai Sakurai. Nagisa Nozaki pinning Mai Sakurai with the Noir Lancer in 15 minutes and 28 seconds. But that only tells you half the story. And then finally, the main event, which I'm sure you have probably heard being talked about, Marigold World Championship match. Sareee, the champion, makes her 2nd title defense, defeating Nanae Takahashi in a blistering match with a sleeper hold in 21 minutes and 23 seconds. Just before we get into the main meat of the card, and Matt, I ask for your overall thoughts before we delve in. A couple of things to note before we start. There was an in-ring ceremony to start with, and this is where we were introduced to those aforementioned rookies, Ryoko Sakimura and Nagisa Takimana. We were told that their debuts would be on Boxing Day and who their opponents would be, Kazuna Tanaka and Nanae Takahashi. Kazuna Tanaka then came to the ring. So despite being removed from the card, she still made an appearance, opened the show, and she was advertising Marigold Shop in Shop, which will be opening on the 27th of December and running through until the middle of January, including some special interactions with Marigold talent. But Matt, overall, this is one of the most enjoyable Marigold shows from top to bottom I've seen. And from probably the tag team match, actually, if I'm being honest, all the way through to the main event, I was so captivated. And it's amazing what a hot crowd can do, because that hot crowd was so into absolutely everything, weren't they?
Yeah, it just adds more to the show. It adds more to them. It's one thing to be hot for a segment or a match. It's another thing to be hot for the entire show. So really great stuff. And you made mention the last week, the 2 shows we reviewed, I believe from the 7th and 8th, packed shows. Great show. They're all great shows. Marigold has never put on a bad show because the roster's great and the booking's terrific. But hot shows, packed shows, they roll it into this one. Great show with an epic main event. You have your title change. What do we have coming up next? We got the mini tag tournament, and then we got Korakuen, and then we got First Stream. So Marigold is on a roll. They are red hot, or white hot, depending if you're Miko Ano or Sareee fan. See what I did there? On a roll. They're really catching some steam here, ending the year, and they have a lot of great things on the docket. You know, it's one thing to be like, okay, we did really good, but like, what do we have next? It's like, and we've seen that with companies. We've seen that with independent companies. We've seen it with Joshi companies. We've seen it, you know, in big, you know, companies that are on TV where it's like, we have everything great, but what's next? You know, now we don't have anything planned because we gave everything away, where they're not like that. It's just like, boom, okay, what's next? On to the next. Great show. On the next, and the next thing just keeps getting bigger and bigger as we head into First Stream. So yeah, a really solid show. You're absolutely right, though. You know, some really good underneath card matches. But once we hit that 6-person tag match, the show really went to the next level. So yeah, and again, great stuff. Sell out. I'm loving seeing it. I'm loving seeing just Marigold catching fire right now. Again, heading into First Stream. So they're catching fire, and I have to catch a light here because as usual, about halfway through the podcast, it gets really dark here. So I'm going to turn the light on real quick, brother. I'll be back in just about 2 seconds.
Yeah, it was disappearing into the shadows there. Let's talk about the first match then on the card. Rhea Sato, Minami Yuki, and Komomo Minami. Obviously, we've said about 4,000 times on this podcast that three ways are extremely difficult to do as a wrestler. And obviously, having Minami Yuki parachuted in because of the injury to Kazuna Tanaka is less than ideal. Still a thoroughly enjoyable match. Gave everyone the opportunity to hit all of their moves, and Rhea Sato continues to improve. And that modified chicken wing that she is adapting now into her offense looks absolutely brutal, man. I'm all here for it. And let's not forget that Korakuen Hall, when she was in a match with Utami, she was massively over, eliciting huge responses from Korakuen Hall. So it's good to see that Rhea Sato's momentum is continuing.
Rhea Sato must be watching her Best of the American Dragon Bryan Danielson Ring of Honor tapes and or DVDs, because the way she's doing these submissions, I was like, it's not as good as Bryan Danielson, for goodness sakes. But it's like, okay, I'm all for that. And that's a huge tip of the cap. Again, I think Bryan Danielson's the greatest wrestler in the history of Ring of Honor. But we've noticed it's like her transitions, her submissions. It looks like a lot of Bryan Danielson from like 20 years ago sprinkled in, and that's a good thing. And she was terrific here. Another one that's really great with the submissions, and Minami Yuki, somebody that she's still trying to find her footing. And eventually she'll get there, because we've seen her sprinkled into tag matches that has your main eventers, your Kokiyama's, your Tommy's in, and that's the only way that she's going to get better, which I have no doubt in a year from now that she's going to be better now than she is. But the good three-way to start, 5 minutes. Again, three-ways are tough to do. Sometimes three-ways are tough to do when you have younger wrestlers, which all three of these wrestlers are less than a year in. And they pulled it off. Tough to do with. You have three rookies, 5 minutes. They told their story. They got in, they got out, they got the crowd warm for the rest of the show. And again, huge tip of the cap to Rhea Sato. Maybe the American Dragon Rhea Sato, we may call her there, Rob Goodwin, because her submission skills are absolutely fantastic. 3.5 stars for me, brother. Thoroughly enjoyed this one.
Rhea, the American Dragon Sato. It's not a comparison I thought we'd make on this podcast, but there we are. Yeah,
we do a lot of stuff on this podcast we don't know we're going to talk about, buddy. So that's the charm, maybe. I don't know.
Very true. It's only on this podcast where you can make comparisons between Mayu Iwatani and King Kong Bundy, I suppose. Although I can't actually remember what the parallel was there. So, but yeah, again, you're absolutely right. Improvement from all three. And I think Minami Yuki, the glaring hole for me was her striking. And that's an area where she's clearly been working. And again, when you've got a three-way, things are difficult to block out. And I think they did a really good job. It was a hot opener, helped to get the crowd into it. I think it worked, did everything it needed to do, and didn't outstay its welcome. You're absolutely right. Moving on then, Bozilla and Misa Matsui versus Hummingbird and now Ishikawa. Now Ishikawa and Bozilla, the feud that will not go away. But Matt, I've heard a rumor that Hummingbird is still traveling down to the center of the earth, because let's put it this way, Bozilla did not pull any punches with that sit-out powerbomb, did she? Goodness gracious me.
One of the things I'm so entertained with Bozilla when she's not teaming with the Dark Wolf Army, because like they're pure heels, it's like, who are they going to put her with? Because the rest of the roster, for the most part, are baby faces. We're teaming her with a high-speed Misa Matsui. And like Bozilla does a great job like adapting to it. And we saw it in the Mass Fiesta where it's just like she was like ultra babyface Bozilla.
Loving it. Yeah.
And it didn't work to the point where it worked. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
This was a really fun tag team, and the fact that we're getting Hummingbird and Misa Matsui against each other in a one-on-one match the day after Christmas in Korakuen Hall. They started this match out by giving a little bit of a preview of what could be a match that probably is going to steal the undercard in Korakuen Hall. So I really like that. I really liked how they kind of paired off the two hard hitters with Bozilla and now Ishikawa and Hummingbird and Misa Matsui. Obviously now Ishikawa, she's, like you just said, it's the feud that will not die. Now Ishikawa just throwing bombs at Bozilla, but still not getting anywhere with it. So eventually, hopefully, somewhere down the line, maybe one of those forums may crumble Bozilla down to one knee, just to kind of break down the King Kong that is Bozilla. But ultimately, yeah, this was a really fun match. But you're right. Once Bozilla was able to slow down Hummingbird, she properly put her through the mat with that her version of the Liger Bomb. 3.5 stars for me, my friend.
Yeah, tremendously fun little match. And you're absolutely right. Bozilla does seem to adapt really well when she is a babyface. And I think it helps that she gets such really, really loud crowd reactions. And even when she is a heel, she is loved by the Japanese crowds, even when, she's flipping them off and stuff like that and telling people to where to go and things in promos. The crowd love it. The crowd react to her. Which is great, which is absolutely great. I did love Misa Matsui's backstage promo, though, where she said, well, I did very little there. I probably need to help out a bit more, just because Bozilla was just absolutely destroying them both. I quite like that. So very self-aware there from Misa Matsui. 6-woman tag. This was tremendous. Utami, Koki Amare, and Victoria Yuzuki defeating Miko Ano, Chika Goto, and Naho Yamada. Now, the biggest compliment that I can pay this match, and I gave this 4 stars, by the way. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Great advert for Marigold as a whole, but also for tile matches going forward, especially, obviously, Koki Amare and Chika Goto. Chika Goto, by the way, who is rejuvenated. She was well up for this match. And it wasn't just Koki. She was properly into absolutely everything. So that's going to be a really exciting match at First Stream. But Naho Yamada did not stand out as the rookie.
Not at all.
And I think that is the biggest compliment that I can pay. At no point was I saying, right, Utami versus Miko Ano, which is, it's the exchange we all want. They are doing so well at making me want this singles match and just keeping it on the back burner. And obviously, we both think, I think that Utami is going to come out First Stream as champion, and maybe that is a title match down the line. And when it is, I'm going to be the most excited boy in Stoke. Which doesn't take a lot, to be perfectly honest. There's very little to get excited about in Stoke. But Naho Yamada did a tremendous job in this match, and her exchanges with Victoria Yuzuki especially were really, really good, to the point actually when I thought Naho Yamada was actually going to pick up the win apropos of nothing at varying points during this. But for me, Koki Amare and Chika Goto, that exchange, those cracks that are forming, Koki Amare trying to frame it as a competitive rivalry, and you can see the hurt in Chika Goto, trying and failing to thinly veil the hurt that Koki Amare basically went, right, I can do what I want now. Right, I'm going to team with Utami then. Feeling very, very betrayed. And then Utami versus Miko Ano, which, if we just have those two hitting each other with thunderous lariats for 15 minutes, then yeah, absolutely fine with that. But yeah, fantastic match. Thoroughly enjoyed it. 4 stars from me.
I give it the same rating, 4 stars. And you're absolutely right when it comes to now. You look at the 6 people in this match. Okay, you have Utami, your ace, Victoria Yuzuki, your future ace. That just seems to break out something new every match, and it makes sense. And you're like, oh, she's really upping her game. And majority of this match was based around Koki Amare versus Chika Goto. And rightfully so, because that's your first GHC championship match coming up at First Stream. And then Miko Ano, she's just absolutely terrific. And you're right, they keep giving us little sprinkles of Utami versus Miko Ano. So you would be forgiven if Naho Yamada is just kind of comes in, gets beat up, does a couple things, and takes the pin. But then you take a step back, and again, she was absolutely great. And I'm going to get to that in a second, partner, as you just said. You take a step back and be like, who is the vet in this match? Utami. Who, from a wrestling aspect, the way that I'm looking at this, who's putting majority of this match together? Probably Utami. And what do we know from Utami for the last few years in Stardom and this year in Marigold? She lets everybody shine in these matches. She makes sure that everybody gets over. She's so unselfish when it comes to certain matches. She's got no problem taking heat or, having a rookie bumper, because if it makes sense in the match to get that person over, ultimately to build her up, because who can Utami be working in 2 or 3 years in a big program? Maybe Naho Yamada. There's a possibility there. And you can say, well, they have a history going back to 2024. So again, and I could be wrong, but the way I look at this, again, from a wrestler's aspect, is Utami's probably putting majority of this match together and wanting to make sure they get Naho Yamada over, because ultimately, who's the one that gets pinned? Naho Yamada. So it'd be one thing if they just beat her up and then Victoria Yuzuki gets the pin. Who did you beat? You didn't beat anybody, but they shine Naoya Yamada up again to the point where, and again, give credit to Victoria Yuzuki kicking out at last second and certain things and bumping and feeding and selling for Naoya Yamada to the point where you think that she's going to get the win, where you were like, oh my goodness, this may be a major upset. And that's the beauty and the art of pro wrestling. All 6 of these ladies did great. You know, they were able to show that, to be like, well, who's going to win? You're not sure how this is going to go, because when the match starts, like, oh, now how Yamada's going to take the fall. That's probably what's going to happen. And then you're starting getting doubts because of the psychology and the way this match was brilliantly built. Again, this match starts off with Chika Goto and Koki Amare. They get the big lock. I got to put it over. They get the big lock up to start. And you're like, all right, I'm in. Here we go. I'm sitting up. I'm in. Again, they sprinkle that in just a little bit to knowing what we're going to be getting at First Stream, and it's going to be great. Again, Miko Ano and Utami. We got a little bit of that, which we think we're going to get somewhere in 2025, and we cannot wait. They gave us just a touch of Miko Ano versus Victoria Yuzuki, too. I was like, ooh, if Miko Ano does retain at First Stream, that's a match I wouldn't mind seeing for the pure white belt, or just a match I would like to see was Miko Ano and Victoria Yuzuki. Marigold's roster is starting to flesh out now. They're starting to build up the rookies into mid-carders and mid-carders into main eventers. We have a lot of dream matches, pun maybe intended, for 2025, and Victoria Yuzuki versus Miko Ano is a match I would love to see. Yeah, this was great. There was no wasted time. This were 13 minutes. It could have went 2 or 3 minutes longer, and I wouldn't have cared, because it was absolutely fantastic. Again, kudos to all 6 of these ladies in these 2 teams, because this was a terrific match that this card just got build from here on out. I agree, partner. 4 stars. Terrific match.
Victoria Yuzuki is such a special talent, and obviously everyone that sees her wrestle says the exact same thing, but she really is. And again, that ever-adapting offense makes her so exciting and captivating to watch. You know, she's breaking outstanding moonsaults, and I know she's done that before, but it's still incredibly impressive. You know, the smoothness and the confidence that she has in ring completely belies her relatively inexperience in ring, really, because she's only been wrestling just over a year. So yeah, incredible stuff. And this is the first match that I would actively encourage you to go out of your way to watch from this show. A really good match. We move on to the Marigold Superfly Championship. Natsumi Shozuki making her 4th title defense. 153 days at the time of this show she has been champion. Obviously that will continue. Myla Grace did injure her knee during this match, according to her Instagram. It does appear to just be a knock, though, not anything major, which is great. I did watch the match back, and I think it might have been during the tornado potato to the outside, because I don't know whether Natsumi Shozuki was not quite in position or whether there was just a little bit of miscommunication. But either way, she landed very heavily on that right knee. But according to her Instagram, she's okay, just bruising. But that aside, I thought this match was another really solid Superfly Championship match. It was hard hitting where it needed to be. It was quick paced where it needed to be. It didn't outstage Welcome, which, you know, was another thing. You know, it wasn't going 14, 15 minutes when it didn't need to. They told the story they needed to tell. I thought that Myla Grace looked really good. You know, the Michinoku driver into the tornado potato attempt. Again, Natsumi Shozuki is fantastic. I love Natsumi Shozuki. And when she ran across the barrier to hit that double knee drop thing, the running double knees anyway, I was like, oh, that's everything I wanted her to do. That's fine. You can end the match there now. I'm happy. But no, this was entertaining. Did what I needed to do. Myla Grace, again, we said it before, I'll say it again. Massive improvement since the first time she stepped in a Marigold ring, and long may that continue. Natsumi Shozuki obviously will go on to First Stream. That's now been confirmed to be Victoria Yuzuki. She will be facing in that title defense, which will be her 5th of the Superfly Championship. But Matt, what did you think of this match? How did you think they reacted to the knee injury as well? Because honestly, I couldn't tell until she put on Instagram a picture of a knee with an ice pack on it.
Really good match. You start out with the your high speed Superfly style, then it broke down to some really good strikes. really great back and forth where like you'd see Natsumi would get a little bit of advantage and then Mila would take it back. Some great stuff back and forth. And then, yeah, she goes for the tornado potato on the outside. And that's because she's never done it on the outside before. And it's a blind move you're doing, not only you're doing to the floor. So you have to be really careful. And it's tough to judge that because you don't know where that person's going to go because she's never done it before. So again, there might have just been some misplaced. And as soon as that happened, I noticed right away that the match slowed down because she crashed and burned, held her knee, and she just wasn't at the same pace that she was because of, again, it wasn't, she got not injured, but again, it kind of slowed it down. It may have been something that she just needed a day or two for ice and then back to normal. But I noticed from that point on, the match kind of slowed down a little bit. What by no means was it bad. It was still really, really good, but never really quite hit that level that I thought it could. And again, that's just part of the game. Sometimes that happens. Again, Mila Grace, the biggest match of her career. Why wouldn't she take a chance like that, right? You got to give credit to her. And this is the move that I'm getting over as a finish that nobody's kicked out of. I got a really cool name for it. Let me try it to the outside. Now it's like, oh man, how about this? And she kind of crashed and burned. And sometimes that happens, but kudos to her toughing it out, gutting it out, and able to finish the match. And great job, Natsumi Shozuki, able to kind of lead towards the end of the match. So again, really, really good effort. Would love to see this one run back sometime in 2025 because both these ladies are consistently getting better. I had this at 3 3/4 stars, but I think they have a better match in them, but still was really, really good. And I'm just so happy that Mila Grace was able to get this title shot in her first year of Marigold because she absolutely earned it. The work that she's been putting in is terrific. And a lot of credit to Natsumi Shozuki as well, because she's next level as well. She's terrific.
She put on Instagram that she was sorry, and it's like, what for? Like, you've done so much hard work, and then, yeah, okay, you've attempted to move, and it hasn't worked. It still looked cool, and for you to attempt that, I wouldn't have attempted that. Good God, no. I wouldn't go to the top rope, just in general. But to do something like that in, a high stakes match it is high risk, high reward. And stuff like that happens. And again, I've been there where you are attempting to run with a bruised knee or you're attempting to run with a dead leg. And even though it's not a serious injury, it automatically swells, making movement really difficult. And, Mila still did a tremendous job to maintain the pace. Yes, okay, there were moments where it slowed down, certainly, but to maintain that pace with an injury, I think, is commendable. Absolutely. And again, shout out to Natsumi Shozuki for sort of guiding those last couple of bits of the match. But I don't think the injury detracted from the match at all. Like I said, I didn't actually notice she'd injured herself until Instagram, and then I watched it back. I don't think there's any need for her to apologize, bless her, not at all. I think she did very well, and I think she continues to do herself very, very proud with the work that she's doing in the Marigold ring. And again, her team with Bozilla is incredibly entertaining. So I'm looking forward to that at Korakuen Hall as well. Moving on then to the Twin Star Championships, our first ever title change in Marigold. It was one we did sort of see coming. There's been cracks in Mirai Saku for a while. That wasn't ultimately what led to the title change, though. It was the huge Bozilla problem, as Bozilla's constant interference in the match, the well-placed interference with the chair from both Nozaki and Chiaki, and just generally being able to dictate the pace of the match led to them getting the advantage. And then obviously Nozaki pinning Mai Sakurai. Again, makes perfect sense. I'm excited to see what the Dark Wolf Army do as champions, because I think they're working well together at the moment. And because they are the de facto heels, the only real heels in Marigold at the moment, they offer something completely different. And I think with them as champions, you have the opportunity to get your super duper babyface teams over even more, thinking of Zelene Flora, for example. However, post-match, they decided they were going to go for broke and try to continue to attack Mai Sakurai with Bozilla holding her in place. Obviously, Mai Sakurai moved, which led to Nagisa Nozaki breaking the chair over Bozilla's head, which obviously angered Bozilla. as it would. And she said that she'd never been a part of the Dark Wolf Army. She was sort of, to paraphrase, a lone wolf, and that she'll be coming after the Twin Star Championships with a surprise teammate. Now, that has been made official for First Dream, Bozilla, and a mystery opponent versus the Dark Wolf Army. Jackie looked devastated. Nagisa Nozaki looked like she could not have cared less about this. But a really good angle to end this, to set something up for First Dream. I enjoyed the match itself, especially the really, really stiff exchanges between Mirai and Nagisa Nozaki. There's one moment that I know that we are going to talk about a little bit, and that's the chair shot that led to the final Noir Lancer. And the reason we're going to talk about that is because, and we spoke a little bit about this on last week's Marigold Standard, the padding fell out of the chair, and as Nagisa Nozaki is lifting the chair up, the seat falls out of it, which means that as she hits Mai Sakurai over the head, she just hits her with the steel frame. And it's a moment where you just kind of tense and go, that didn't look nice. The match finished. The match was fine. And obviously Mai Sakurai is absolutely fine. However, it was a little bit of an uncomfortable moment. I don't think Nagisa Nozaki realized what had happened, because as the seat fell out, the chair was there. There's no way of her to see it. And then obviously she came down, and Mai Sakurai got her hands up. But I know that it's something you want to talk about. So we might as well get into that before we get into the rest of the match.
Yeah, again, I don't like, knowing what we know about concussions over the last 20 years or so, I don't like chair shots to the head. Again, when you have the Oedo Tai super padded chair, which obviously is probably no longer a thing because they're hate, like we saw with Konami use on, I believe, Hazuki for her and Sure to win the tag belts back in the summer. Like that, I get. Obviously, this was an accident. When I first watched it, I was like, oh, I just don't like these chair shots to the head. And Mai Sakurai got her hands up a little bit, not enough, but a little bit. But again, you went back and watched it. The padding came out, so it looked like it was an accident. But that really, they really dodged a bullet there. They really did, because that could have been something bad. Part of the steel cut,
Really
catches you in the head, concussion, cuts your eye, something like that. So they really dodged a bullet. And give credit to Mai Sakurai being able to gut it out and finish the match. And it doesn't, that match happened a little over a week ago. A few days ago, and we haven't heard anything about concussions, and Mai Sakurai seems to be okay. No. Thank God. That's the main thing. But accidents do happen when you're doing a spot that dangerous. It's something that you need to take extra precaution. And credit to Mai Sakurai, seeing that padding went that way and not this way. It went backwards instead of forward. Was able to get her hands up to protect herself a little bit, because at the end of the day, I mean, it's one thing when you have a hurt shoulder, hurt knee, and it's something that you can rehab. When your brain takes so many shots, there's nothing you can do to rehab your brain. So that's one of the many reasons why I don't like concussions, but they lucked out there. And that was a bad situation. Again, it wasn't something that Nagisa Nozaki was being careless. It was just she went to go swing the chair, the padding that was probably supposed to catch some of the chair shot flew off, and then Sakurai was smart enough to see, like, this isn't looking good, and put the hands up just enough to protect herself. So I'm glad that she was okay. Rob, I do want to make mention, when Bozilla did cut that promo afterwards, she said she's bringing somebody that can cause a lot of damage. Who do you think is this mystery partner? I have a lot of people thinking that it's Megan Bayne. Before I give my prediction, I would like to hear your prediction live on air, sir, because we have not talked about this off air.
I would be incredibly surprised if it's Megan Bayne. I think it was in the Observer where there was a little bit of discrepancy over Megan Bayne going to Marigold to start with, and then that just not happening. I don't know if they've patched that up. Obviously, Megan Bayne and Bozilla team would be destructive. Let's put it that way. But yeah, unless bridges have been made, I sincerely doubt it'll be Megan Bayne. Obviously, the most sensible choice is Billiken Death, because why not have the Golden Germans? I think that would be the greatest tag team in the history. No, Obviously, there's a couple of people thinking it'll be Myla Grace, especially as it's Bozilla and Myla Grace in the Twin Star Cup tournament, and it's obviously those two teaming together at on the Korakuen Hall show. I don't know, because the way they've sort of built it, it does seem like it might be someone from outside the company. If it's inside the company, it makes the most sense to be Myla Grace. But I think if it was just going to be Myla Grace, they'd have just said, I'm teaming with Myla Grace. Like, if it was someone on the roster, I have a feeling that unless it's like someone completely out of left field, I've got a feeling they'd have just announced it with the rest of the card. And there isn't actually that much talent left that aren't already in a match. I mean, unless it's now Ishikawa, maybe. Like, obviously, maybe Bozilla's been impressed by now Ishikawa's fight. And it's like, right, come on, you. Get on the ring apron. You can stay there. I'm not going to tag you in. I'm going to do it all myself and then throw you a belt at the end, something like that. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting one. Obviously, we've seen that, Marigold aren't opposed to bringing people in. I know it costs a lot of money to bring Io Sky in. It's not. I doubt it's going to be someone of that sort of money, or that sort of standing. I don't know, Matt. Honestly, I know that you've got a theory. I know you're desperate to tell me. So, go on. Who do you think it's going to be?
She made to say and put a point. My opponent to cause a lot of damage. I love me some Myla Grace. She doesn't seem like the damaging. You know what I mean? Like for Bozilla, but this person can cause a lot of damage. It might be Damage Clown. We may see the debut of Damage Clown, where she just has like the warrant instead of the face paint. She has her face paint, but with the do not cross.
The police tape.
That's it. The police tape. Damage Clown.
Yeah, I love it.
What's Nanae doing on the show? Because she's somebody that can cause a lot of damage.
Obviously, we know that she's announced her retirement. I'd be very, very surprised if she has any more title matches before her retirement.
But again, maybe this is just me.
Maybe.
This is your first big show. This is your big show to basically your exclamation point at the end of your first year to start your second year. Damage control, Dakota Kai. I'm going to say it's going to be Dakota Kai. I don't think it's going to be Io or Kairi, especially with Io probably, hopefully, fingers crossed, winning the Royal Rumble. So I don't think it's going to be her. Again, if it's going to be Io or Kairi, you'd want to announce that way ahead of time. I think it's going to be Dakota Kai. I'm putting no money on it. Maybe I'll put $1. Maybe I'll put $1. I'm doing really well. So I'll put $1 American dollar that it's Dakota Kai. That's it.
I think it's more likely to be someone in Japan. And the reason that I think it is going to be someone in Japan is because I think Marigold will want to bring someone in for Nanae's retirement show in May. And I think that is what they would spend that money on. If you have got the money to bring in, I'm just going to say, I would love to see Kairi come back for Nanae's retirement show because of Seven Kairi. And I think if you've got the money to do that, we know that bringing in Io costs a lot of money. I imagine that bringing in Kairi is going to be something very similar. I imagine that you will want to save that for that Korakuen Hall show. I think it's in Korakuen anyway, the Marigold Nanae's retirement show. So here I think they will bring someone in from Japan. Who that leaves them with, I don't know. Obviously, we've seen that they're not opposed to bringing in Japanese talent. We've seen them bring in freelancers, Flying Penguin, Momoko Hanazono.
Nori. Nori.
Nori.
Oh, we just booked it. Wow. We just popped ourselves.
Shinobu Kandori.
Oh.
I mean.
Oh my goodness.
It could be, couldn't it?
Man, let the speculation continue.
I mean, who's caused more damage than Shinobu Kandori? You saw the state of Akira Hokuto after that match.
Yeah. Oh man, watch it be like somebody like a celebrity. Like Logan Paul.
Just,
No, I'm just
just
yeah.
Bozilla really strike you as someone who's team with a
She's
celebrity.
bringing in an idol.
She's just gonna go. She's gonna go full Braun Strowman, just get a child out of the crowd. You stand there, and that child will turn into Yuzuki. Anyway, let's talk about this main event then: Sareee versus Nanae Takahashi, which was as good, if not better, than I could have possibly hoped. These two had a tremendous match, one of Marigold's matches of the year in the Dreamstar Grand Prix, which was just absolutely brutal. And this was exactly the same, unrelenting. And I know that me and Matt have very different opinions on the finish, and I'm really excited to get to that because there's a way that I've interpreted the finish. Now, obviously, there's a lot to get into because Nanae, despite this injury and despite obviously the the subsequent announcement that she'd be retiring from pro wrestling in May, she gave absolutely everything in this match. And both women deserve an incredible amount of praise because this is one of my favorite matches of the year. I thoroughly enjoyed this match. I was hooked on this match, and the crowd was so into this match. This felt like a truly special main event. And I don't know whether that is just because you've got Nanae, who is one of the most decorated Joshi, or you've got Sareee, who is having, she's the Tokyo MVP, the Tokyo Sports MVP, and rightly so. But she's on the run of a lifetime. We know what these two can do, and whether it's because it was postponed and we've had a little bit more time to build to that. We had the Naomi Ishikawa match that sort of bled into this at Korakuen. I don't know, but there's something special about this match that made me feel like, oh my God, we're witnessing something really, really, really exciting here. Now, I know that the match ended with a sleeper hold and not with the Uranagi. And I know that, Matt, you want to talk a little bit about sort of the crowd and things like that to do with that sleeper hold. So do you want to talk about that first, and then we'll sort of go into everything else?
Sure. I mean, first of all, this match was epic. 4 3/4 stars. I mean, damn near perfect match. This match was epic.
Mm-hmm.
The crowd was molten hot for every match. And the way this card was booked, it built, and then we get to hear the crowd was molten hot, and it just kept getting hotter and hotter and hotter. The slap exchanges, and they did the bar fight with the chairs, with the slaps there, and just the double stomps, and then even with Nanae Takahashi hitting the Uranagi on Sareee, which got a huge pop. But then, like, I'm sitting in the same exact chair I am right now watching, and I'm pointing right there. There's my front door, and when I'm not podcasting, I leave the door open a little. And Amber, my wife, came walking by, and she said something to me, and I looked up, and I looked back down. The match was over, and I thought maybe I bumped something, and I fast forward. But I was like, oh no, I didn't. So I went back and rewound it, and it was like she won with the sleeper hold that Sareee does not win matches with. It's not one of her go-to holds, and this match is built around the Uranagi. And I was like, that makes no sense. And then I went back and rewound it again 2 minutes, and the crowd was here. And then the bell rings. And as soon as the sleeper hits it, there's no fighting it. It's just like, boom, the bell rings. And the crowd was the lowest it was maybe for the whole show. So I was like, okay, I'm not imagining that. I'm not imagining that this was a really flat finish. And I feel bad saying this because this match was so good. So good. Maybe the second best Marigold match of the year behind Io and Utami for me. It was an epic level match that just had a good finish. And what I mean by that is when you have this big main event championship match and the crowd is molten hot for it, you want that big 1, 2, 3, or that person reaching for the ropes for a tap out and then tap out. Again, we'll talk about a lot of it later this week when we record Stardom cast. Hazuki and Mercedes. The crowd was molten hot. When the finish happened, that was the biggest pop of the match because it's like you're building, and the crowd is awaiting that. They're waiting either a kick out or a foot on the rope, which we did get. Again, we'll talk about it when we record the Stardom cast. But once that 3 happened, the crowd went absolutely ballistic because you're waiting for that. Again, you look at your established stars: Stone Cold Steve Austin, Stunner, 1, 2, 3, Triple H pedigree, from a generation prior. Hulk Hogan hits the leg drop, 1, 2, 3. That's your pop. Sareee has not won a match, especially a big match, with the sleeper hold. So, and again, this is built around the Uranagi, so much to the point where that last Korakuen show they did, me and you were, when we previewed it, like, what's going to main event? Is it going to be the pure white belt match with Miko Anna versus Natsumi Suzuki, or the tag title match with Sumie Sakai versus Koki and Utami? And both those matches were epic. They were terrific, especially the tag match that went to the time limit draw. But neither main evented. It was Sareee and Naomi Ishikawa to further along Sareee and Nanae. If you remember, right before Sareee hits the Uranagi, she stares at Nanae and then delivers it. So you're building it around that. And I understand if Nanae is like, I don't want to take it because I got injured last time. That's fine, but built up the sleeper. Again, if we know going into this match that the finish is probably going to be the sleeper, have Sareee start hitting the Uranagi and then following up with the sleeper. Because so we build it. Like, we know that that's one of Saree's finishers. Very much like how, and Sonny and Stu Fulton did a great job on the Bozilla Sareee match in Korakuen Hall a few months ago, where it's like, we don't know if she can hit the Uranagi, but she's studying that Inoki Andre the Giant match, where Inoki does the seated armbar to tap Andre. So we knew that was a possibility going in, that's going to be the finish because it got telegraphed. Nobody had any idea this was going to be the finish. And again, and I talk about Mai Sakurai when she locks in the STF. Most people tap out right away because that's what you would do in a big MMA fight. But when it's a big time match, you want to draw it out. Look at Mai Sakurai and Utami and the Dream Star Finals, where she has it in, and Utami looks like she's fading. And we're like, is she going to tap or pass out? And you're building. Eventually, Utami gets to the rope. So not only did I not like the sleeper as a finish because it's not built up at all, this match was built around the Uranagi, but it was, as soon as it gets put on, there's no tap out, which if Nanae would have tapped out, it would have got at least a decent pop. But it's just like the ref checked, okay, that's it, ding, ding, ding. And then everybody, and again, I went back and watched the last 30 seconds of the match. People were looking around like, the crowd just died. They were so hot for this entire show. They were molten hot for this match. And you just got a flat finish. Again, these ladies crushed it. Again, 4 3/4 stars. Epic level match, which is the finish that, like, again, it was built around the Uranagi. Nanae hits the Uranagi on side, which was great, huge pop. But it was like, wait, that was the finish? And it just breaks my heart because I wanted to give this match 5 stars. And it was so close. It was just, the crowd just took the air out of the balloon at the end. Again, 4 3/4 stars. Thank you to both these phenomenal ladies for putting on a great. Nanae is 5 months away from retirement and putting on this level of performance. I want to talk about that as well. But I remember because you texted me like, that was such a great match. I watched, I think it was the next day, and I was like, it's a great match, but that finish was just out of nowhere. Didn't make sense to me. And even again, go back and watch it. Listen to the crowd. The crowd was like, oh, okay. Smart and clap. Where you want that big boom, that big pop. It's your main event match. Again, Mercedes Suzuki. Actually, right after I watched this match, I watched the semifinals again of Wingori versus Suriport. And Hanan hits the backdrop. 1, 2, 3, the big pop. That's what you want. The 1, 2, 3. And again, if it's a submission, you want Nanae to fight it a little. Is she going to tap? And then she reaches for the ropes. Maybe she gets close. Sareee pulls her back. You could have worked the sleeper a little bit more if that's going to be your finish. But it was like, it gets on, and the ref just calls for the bell, and just flat. To me, it was just flat for what was an epic level match, partner. So go ahead, good sir. Because I'd like to hear your discourse on this, because again, that was mine. Again, I absolutely love the match, but could have been a 5-star match if it was just more of a finish that we saw coming. Because again, the sleeper it's not Saree's finisher. Like I just, yeah. Go ahead, sir.
I completely get your point. Absolutely. The Uranagi was built as this weapon. And the moment where in Korakuen Hall, Sareee makes a point of looking at Nanae before hitting it on Naomi Ishikawa was perfect. But after that match, Sareee says, I'm putting this away. I can beat you without it. And Nanae is absolutely livid. Says she's never been so offended in her life that someone would dare to suggest putting a move away against her. And you look at the finish of this match, Sareee doesn't use the Uranagi. She beats her with a sleeper hold. And what does Nanae do after this match? She retires. And the way I saw this was more, not necessarily an embarrassment for Nanae, but almost she did beat me without the Uranagi. And actually, maybe I can't do it at this level anymore. And the fact that the referee had to intervene, and the referee was the one that sort of said, nah, she can't go anymore. She can't go anymore. It was that was the feeling that I got. And it was very much Sareee was too powerful for Nanae. And both women locked in the sleeper hold during this match. Nanae earlier in the match, Sareee had locked it in once before as well. And maybe it was just a case of Nanae couldn't last. 28 years into a career, she's 48 years old, has been wrestling since 1996. Maybe she was just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't wrestle at this caliber anymore. And she's looking across at someone who's never beaten her and gone, I can't stay at her level. And the fact that Sareee is able to beat this Joshi legend with a move that she doesn't usually win with, that's that final nail in the coffin for Nanae. And Nanae realizes, I'm done. I'm done. And that's how I thought about it. And yes, I do get that maybe it should have been locked in for longer. I do get that. And actually, one of my favorite matches in 2022 was Sareee and Mayu Iwatani. And we talked about that match and how it was so close to being the perfect finish if Daichi had have just left it a couple more seconds before throwing in the towel for Mayu. Just really, really wring that emotion out of the audience. And I think certainly this match could have benefited from perhaps Sareee locking that sleeper hold in for a little bit longer. But the fact that it was evident to the referee that Nanae wasn't getting out of this situation, to me, it was all about, yes, it was all about the Sareee title defense. Of course it was. But it was also about Nanae's retirement. And the fact that if the referee is stepping in to basically go, yeah, she's not getting out of this, maybe it's time for Nanae to step aside. And that's ultimately what happened. I think it was that sort of psychology. That was how I've read the match anyway. And sort of watching the match with that idea, it's a really emotional finish. To watch this once still great wrestler, by the way. Her matches in Marigold have been tremendous. But to see this person who was once at the very, very, very top being effectively having a TKO by being put in a sleeper hold, and ultimately seeing in real time someone go, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. That level of emotion really, really added to the match. And again, maybe that didn't translate as well to the live crowd because of the speed of which they did the TKO. And I get that completely. And again, it's the same thing that I said about the Mayu and Sareee match, which I also gave 4 3/4 stars to. But the storyline, looking back on it for this match was so well done. And I think had they just lasted a bit longer in the sleeper hold, this would have been 5 stars easily. But that's how I read it anyway. And the fact that Nanae had taken such offense at Korakuen, even suggesting that she would put away one of her moves because she didn't want to hurt her, and then to lose with Sareee actually having not used that move and sort of the ultimate embarrassment, if you want, that for me, that was really well told, this match. And that's why I have raved about this match, will continue to rave about this match. I thought, and we both agree that everything up to the finish was just beautiful brutality, which Nanae does better than a lot of people. And Sareee is up there as one of the most just destructive wrestlers on this entire bloody planet. Like the way she goes through with those double foot stomps. Ugh. Like every time she hits one into the chest, I physically tense because I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine a way in which that doesn't hurt. I can't imagine a way in which there is like, you're looking at it going, how can I take this where it's not going to hurt as much? I can't imagine there's a way of that happening. And that sort of realism is what makes Sareee such a goddamn fantastic wrestler. And, you know, Nanae, I actually feel guilty looking back for saying, you know, because I was quite negative about her Stardom run that second time round. And I think she was sort of checked out of that run. I do stand by that. But I did let it colour my opinion a little bit of Nanae. And then I look at her in Marigold and she's like a completely different person. Like you look at the singles match, she had a fantastic Dream Star. She made Bozilla look incredible in those two singles matches. She got the absolute bejesus beaten out of her by Sareee and vice versa in the Dream Star, and then does it again here. Yeah, if you're gonna go out after a match like this because fair bloody play. But yes, that's how I took the
Sure,
finish.
sure. All you know though, like the whole I don't need to use it. All the more reason to do it because it's just like it's not like it was banned. It's not like it was banned. It's like I don't
No.
and like Sareee just can't put Nanae away and finally hits it. And then Saree's just or Nanae is like, you did have to use it. I think all the fact that she wasn't. A lot of people thought that meant she was going to use it. And just go back on the Sherry thing with the stretch muffler, the white tiger that she did to Mayu. It's an established finish for Sherry. That's why it makes sense where the sleeper hold is not. But regardless, again, I don't want to take again. I'm a positive. This match was great. That was just my one little. I was like, I know a lot of people are giving this 5 stars, and people might be like, Matt, why aren't you giving it 5 stars? And that's the reason why. And I like to say the reason why. Again, I always go back. Like my dad is such not only a phenomenal father, but he was my youth football coach, and he would tell me, "You need to do this," and it wasn't one of those because I said so. He would break down why you need to do this. So whenever I give some criticism on something, I like to break down why. So again, the reason why I'm not giving this 5 stars, 4 3/4, it's still a phenomenal rating. Is because of the finish. And then I just broke down the reason why, to me, the finish didn't make sense. However, Rob Goodwin, again, let's go into this phenomenal match. And let's talk about something a lot of people bid on the finish. Is it one finish that Nanae has not broke out in quite some time that a lot of people bid on? We did see the return of the Passion Package here, my friend. Yes. And a lot of people bid on that. And I knew the finish because I didn't see this until I think a few hours afterwards. So I knew what the finish was. And a lot of people, we did expect Sareee to retain, but a lot of people did bite on the Passion Package. But one thing that I did bite my down on my tongue and my lip was when Sareee jumped from the one table to the other onto the double stomp, as you mentioned. That was
brilliant.
Just brutal. I mean, this is great back and forth, a war of attrition. It's just like this Nanae Takahashi kid, 48 years old, 20 some odd years into her career, still can go. It's that old line versus the young lion. Sareee, arguably the best women's wrestler, or maybe even the best wrestler in the entire world. She's, the big champion. Does Nanae, can she pull one more out? And she almost does several times, with the Nanae rocker, and she almost hits the 1 second MX, and it's just the forearms, and then the passion package, all these different little things. Can I beat her by submission? Can I beat her with a roll up? Can I beat her with a move? I won so many matches with, she comes close so many times. And then to the point where it's like, okay, sorry, you won't use the Uranagi, but I'm going to use it. And then that got a huge pop, not only from me, but the crowd. I thought that was great. That was brilliant. Just an epic level match. But I know when you text me, you're like, I think this is the best match in Marigold's short history. And to me, it's so close. But I just, Io and Utami, just the way they built their finish and just the epic level of that we got this dream match, slightly beats it for me. But this is, I mean, it's right there. It's my second favorite Marigold match of the year, and probably my top 15 or 20 matches I've seen in all of professional wrestling. This match was absolutely fantastic. We knew it was going to be a war. We knew it was going to be good, but I mean, again, darn near perfection. I mean, and what more can you say about Nanae Takahashi? 5 months away from her retirement, and she's putting on epic level performances like this. Most wrestlers we see that wrestle, they're still drawing crowds, they're still entertaining, but they're not this good. Like Shawn Michaels is an exception to the rule, but there's very few that can still go as you're getting towards the end of their wrestling career. Nanae putting out an absolute banger, my friend. An absolute banger. We're going to be talking about this match for years and years to come. Just a brilliant performance between two brilliant, brilliant performers.
And we haven't even talked about Nanae absolutely wrecking Saree's knees, and then Sareee having to risk her own knees to stop the refrigerator bomb. That was, and then using the momentum of her own stumbling to get into the corner to hit that double stomp. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I mean, we are witnessing a god tier level year from Sareee, undoubtedly, and I'm sure we will continue to give flowers to Sareee throughout, hopefully, the many years we've got left of her, because she is truly incredible. But yeah, Nanae Takahashi, to be able to produce a match like this at 48 years old. I imagine I'll struggle to walk downstairs at 48 years old.
You do now.
I do, absolutely. You know how long it takes me to sit in this chair to do a podcast?
Is that why you're always late?
No,
I know. Kayfabe.
No, it's not. I'm just really crap with time management. But yeah, again, love this match. I would say that this and Io and Utami is very much a case of column A and column B. You know, 1A, 1B. I just, even though they didn't quite lock in the finish for long enough, I love the story of this wounded, sort of grizzled veteran not quite being able to hang with the young lion, if you want. And I like the fact that they were brave enough to do this finish without the Uranagi. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Matt. They might well have said backstage, look, my neck is made of dust at this point. Can we maybe avoid dropping me on it? Completely get that. I would probably be the same. I don't know if that's what happened backstage, but if that was what happened backstage, and then they crafted this finish, even more credit to them. Yeah, I think that over the course of, but again, maybe that's something that they would have done, but Nanae hasn't been on the shows to do that because of, obviously, the neck injury. So potentially you could have said, right, well, Sareee needs to lock in the sleeper hold on other people. However, I quite like it. I quite like the fact that it's basically a finish that she doesn't usually use. And yeah, you could argue, like you say, about how, Nanae saying, you did have to use the Uranagi to beat me. But ultimately, she's retiring. Like, put Sareee over strong. Because ultimately, what is Sareee going on to do? Battle Utami. And that's the money match.
I agree. Put over Sareee strong by actually tapping out. That would have made a bigger pop.
Okay. That I am willing to concede. I am willing to concede that, yeah. And if you are going to do a referee stoppage, again, like the Mayu and Sareee thing, just have it locked in a little bit longer. Yeah.
Draw it out.
Yeah.
Draw it
I'm willing.
Yeah. Again, I have no problem with not taking the Uranagi because of the story you're telling. Maybe Nanae is like, hey, I don't want to get hurt. I completely understand. Built up the sleeper. Even if they don't realize until maybe a day or two before that that's the finish, built up the sleeper. Or even if they realize when they're putting that match together backstage that, like, hey, let's do the sleeper. So we didn't have time to build it. It could have been a little bit more in the match, especially the finish where, again, you're working. I always, my go-to, and I know a lot of people don't like to watch Chris Benoit matches. I get it. Go back and watch the main event of WrestleMania 20. You want to talk about drawing out a tap out? You know what I mean? The end of a long show, WrestleMania 20, New York City, WrestleMania. I mean, when Triple H taps out, that place comes unglued. And for how hot the crowd was, I think if Nanae tried to get to the ropes and Sareee pulled her back and then she tapped out, I think you would have got a massive, massive pop. But again, you're kind of splitting hairs. Again, 4 and 3/4 stars. Yeah. One of the best matches you'll see all year.
Absolutely. Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle is another one.
21, Mania 21. Yeah,
Mania 21 is another one. But again, obviously, this match was tremendous. Will undoubtedly be in the conversation for Marigold's match of 2024, and rightly so. But, we are ultimately building to Sareee and Utami, and it's Utami who comes out to basically say, I'm challenging you, Sareee, officially for first stream. It's confirmed. And Sareee said, you're not ready to be the ace. you've just had matches that have put me to sleep. You're not exciting enough to be the face of this company. I'm going to crush you just like I did with Nanae Takahashi. And it was a really cool promo to end this on, and just adding that little bit of heat, because we haven't got a great deal of previews before First Stream. As I said, we've got 4 shows, and again, we don't quite know what's going on with that New Year's Eve show, and we don't know what's happening in terms of Saree's participation on these shows. We know that she is going to be on the Korakuen Hall show. She's not on the show on the 20th, the Twin Star Cup show. So that does narrow down the amount that we can build towards this match. It doesn't need a great deal of build. It's Sareee versus Utami Hayashishita.
There's your build.
Exactly. It's a match of the year contender on the 3rd day of the year. Like, it's going to be tremendous. But just that little bit of fire, I really do enjoy. And overall, this show over-delivered massively. Like, we had high expectations of this show, and I think they surpassed my expectations, 100%, certainly. And considering 100%. This is Nanae's first match since her neck injury, her first match in over a month, and she comes in and does that at 48 years old with a neck made of dust. Yeah, from a purely exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 1000%. And from a purely selfish point of view, I wanted to continue wrestling forever. But from another point of view, and we said this when we talked about it on the Stardom cast, I'm actually really happy for her that she is able to dictate her own terms in terms of that retirement, because so many wrestlers are not able to do that, are not able to dictate when they can retire, are not able to go out on their own terms, are not able to go out when they want to in the way that they want to. And I think that it's such a rarity, unfortunately, in pro wrestling, that I'm so glad that Nanae is able to do it. And I mean, again, if this is the last big match, save for Nanae's retirement matches, what a match to go out on. Absolutely tremendous. But Matt, ordinarily at this point, I would be throwing to you to do Gaze at Julia, but there isn't one. There is no Gaze at Julia, because we did a Marigold standard at the end of last week, did it then, and we recorded another one earlier. So there isn't one yet because NXT hasn't aired. So we will be postponing the Gaze at Julia until next week. But yes, we will be back next week at some point because it's Christmas. I don't know when we're going to record next week. The only thing we've got written in stone is that the 29th, we will be doing a live podcast for Dream Queendom. It's become a bit of an annual tradition. We are going to keep that tradition up. It's going to be airing live on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook. So make sure that you join us for that. Again, it's the Christmas period, so you will have to bear with us. Obviously, trying to match schedules at the best of time is difficult, but during the festive period, it's even more difficult. So just bear with us. But we will be back talking about the Twin Star Cup and talking about the lead up to Korakuen Hall on Boxing Day as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Marigold Standard. We've somehow managed to go nearly 2 hours, despite the fact that we've only got one show to talk about, because that's just what happens sometimes. But yeah, thank you to everyone. Make sure, if you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, that you do subscribe to your podcast wherever you get them. We are physically everywhere. If you could leave us a review, or a rating, that would be great, as it really does help the podcast out. It helps us be exposed to more people as well. If you'd like to subscribe to the Patreon, that would also be tremendous. www.patreon.com/the Stardom Cast for all of these episodes early and ad-free for as little as $1 a month. Check out the website, www.talkjoshi.com, for all of your stats and histories to do with Marigold, to do with Stardom, but also all of our archived episodes as well, and all of the news coming out of the two companies. Social media, you can find us at Marigold Podcast or at Talk Joshi on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky as well. You can talk to me on Twitter at RealRobGoodwin. Mr. Matt Turner, where can they find you? and then sign us off, good sir, because it's 10:30 here.
Folks, questions, comments, suggestions, anything you need from me, Matt Turner OF, on the Instagram, on the Twitter, and the Blue Sky. If you want to shoot me an email, the email address is the StardomCast22@gmail.com. Folks, that's going to wrap it up for another fun-filled episode of the Marigold Standard, where we were honored to talk about just the absolute epic match that is Nanae Takahashi versus Sareee. We greatly appreciate your support. Can't do without you, because like I always say, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast. Because when all together, everybody's different. Everybody's special.